So is this working? Shows it's working. But is it really working? To wait till we see someone speak. He says this works. And I'm waiting to see. Does it say it's time? No. Is it even time? Am I early? Am I early? I'm a little early. Okay. But I did hit start streaming. Hi. Am I audible? Can you hear me? It shows I'm talking. It shows there's a picture of me. I don't know if it's there. I would take it is since you said hi, so that was kind of a dumb question. But perhaps. Yep, okay, it's the two of you, and we get started rolling. Trevor set this up and showed me how to do it, and I may actually know what I'm doing in this moment. All right, and there, okay, so now we roll. So, okay. So you're listening from the man cave again. So you're not allowed in the house, I take it. Okay. Okay, so she's in the house, and then you have to go in a different room to watch that. What did you do to be put in this position? All right. But go here. We're in our different shirt for every video live. So this week we're in a Coyotes jersey. So I'm the captain. I'm the captain. So I'm going to continue that. It actually rained yesterday. It's damp and cool. So I can wear this. This is not a summer type thing. Wearing a hockey sweater. From Prescott. And rain was nice. The rain was nice, but unfortunately the rain, the school canceled Discovery Camp. They were worried about bringing the buses out, so we didn't have Discovery Camp today. So I didn't have to, the upside is I didn't have to hurry in to do this. I was able to just relax and kind of proceed, and there was a lot of things at work, so I just handled those things, but yes, I didn't get to do Discovery Camp today, which sucks for the kids. But, yeah, that was kind of the way that went. And so the third one was rained out. But all is good. We're supposed to get more rain Tuesday or Wednesday. So usually January, February is the two rainy months of the year out here. So we'll see. The temperatures and everything stay. Clemson Tigers. This is a Phoenix Coyotes jersey. Let me see if I can get it. There you see it. See? Phoenix Coyotes. It's the Phoenix Coyotes, not the Arizona Coyotes. And I think this would be... It's either Jeremy Roenick or a Monte. No, this could be actually a Shane Doan one. This could be a Shane Doan. But most of the Coyote jerseys I have Blackhawks names on them when they had Blackhawk numbers. So, because I'm a Blackhawks fan, but I live in Phoenix. So, but yeah, I don't know if I have any Arizona Coyotes jerseys. But I do have Phoenix Coyotes jerseys, the early on ones when they came over from Winnipeg as the Jets, and they changed their name. So it's not a tiger, it's a coyote. It looks kind of more like a fox, but better than the Native American ones that came later, where they're those weird kind of block forms. They're interesting, they're neat Southwestern jerseys, but yeah, they not a great job on Coyotes. So hopefully everybody else is good. Like I said, it was a rainy kind of night, and then this morning was a cool, damp day, and kind of was able to kind of get things kind of wrapped up, and was able to get here, and did what exactly I wanted. Had Trevor run me through step by step and make me a list so I could have a checklist to make sure I got this right. And it appears at this time that I have got it right. And hopefully it all does what it's supposed to be. Long sleeve and shorts, of course. Well, the thing is, this is supposed to be, I'm going to try to wear a different shirt for every live and video through time. So, because someone criticized the fact, and I didn't realize it, I would wear the same shirt. So there's like 2 different shirts I would wear all the time. So it makes me look like I don't have any shirts. So now I'm going and pulling a different shirt out, stuff I would not normally wear. But I still wear these with shorts anyways, hockey jerseys. So anyways, and I got a number of these. So we've done different shirts for different things. And this is the continuation of that. So it goes with the hat. I don't know. Yeah, it's a black jersey. Most of them are that dark green, a darker green, kind of white and stuff. So, anyways, hockey jerseys are really nice because they're comfy, so and loose. I saw a YouTube guy hiked over Cardi to West Boulder. Okay, any chance? No, that's not the way Waltz went, and that's not quite the way you would go. No, because they could. Julia and Reinhardt couldn't have made it up there. Waltz, that's a bit of a kind of a hoof and a long way around to there. If you were going to West Boulder, you would come in on the north side. Greetings, Way. Go gold prospecting in San Antonio, Texas, where every day is a golden day. What's the truth behind the Indian Springs? Forgot to do laundry, right. So truth behind Indian Springs, I don't know what you mean by that or exactly where we could go. Indian Springs. There's Indian Springs 1, 2, and 3, and I know there's some ruins or a spot down by Indian Springs, so I'm not sure exactly specifically what the question means. You could get a Bisbee killer termites from the Doug Stanhope. I don't even know who that is, and I didn't know that the Bisbee killer termites. They could have done a better job than that. The Bisbee bees. Anyways, I didn't know. God, what? I didn't. Well, they have to have a high school still, right? I don't know. Didn't Waltz head towards the board house? Waltz said the thought is that he stopped by the board house. See, as soon as I got to think of someone's name, I'm lost. The ex-wife of Matt Cavanis, because she was living there with her kids. Matt Cavanis was afraid her. They ended up divorced. She ended up being at the house by herself. She said that Waltz, that's one of the stories, is that Waltz had stopped by there for supplies or something at one point. She also said that some Apaches had stopped by there. And so that story comes from, and it was a woman with children, and the only person we know, a woman with children, that was living back in there anytime during that time period was Matt Cavanis' wife. And because they had the Quarter Circle U, what is today the board house at the Quarter Circle U, and then they had a goat farm or dairy farm down the road from it towards where the other pen is, and the well east of there, and somewhere between the two there was another house, a mother-in-law's house. His mother-in-law was out there. We know that much. I don't know if anybody's ever, I went out and tried to figure if there was some nails or something we could find where that other location was. I don't know if it would be where the water is, or if it was somewhere in between. So, and I remember talking to Tom Collenborn. Yes, it's working. Yes, I know. It's kind of crazy, isn't it, that I manage this in technology. Later, fill me in, anyone. Nothing's happened. You can almost read it and understand. Buchanan Ranch. No, I don't think so. I think it was the Cavanis, Marlar, Quarter Circle U, Bark Ranch. All one and the same. It doesn't make any sense, the Hewitt area. And then you got to remember, there's just so many different ways they could have come in, which makes you curious why they eventually just started coming in through First Water. But I think it's because Waltz, unless Walt's intended to bring them that way. We don't know the specific reasons they made their trips the directions they did. We have to remember the first time they were out there was out towards Hog Canyon. They never even got inside the Superstitions. They were kind of turned around at Hog Canyon. So they were somewhere in the midway, and so we don't know why they ended up going there. So that is that. First, we got to jump in and say thank you, everybody, for joining us here live on this Friday. But additionally, next Saturday will be February 10th. We will meet at First Water. I'm planning on being there about 8 a.m. And that will be the 90th. The 90th, 9-0 anniversary of the very first trek of the Dons. That first trek, they had 2 hikes. We're going to do one of them that I know was specific. The other one, I'm not sure exactly where it went. But that hike, we will take you by the first trek site where everything was, and a little talk there. First Water Ranch, where the original site was. We won't go to the second site because it's kind of out of the way. We'll go to the First Water Ranch site where Bill Barkley and his wife, Betty, were, and then we will go up the hill to Garden Valley, also known as Indian Gardens, and talk a little bit about the history there. It will only take the hike take an hour or two, but it's not going to take very long. There's a bit of an incline going up to Indian Gardens. It's not a strenuous hike. It's an easy, very slow, well maintained trail. Everybody does it, and so we will do that, and then kind of break off and split, but we'll talk about a lot of the history and stuff along there. Trek of the Dawn sounds enticing, and it's just an anniversary hike. We did a couple years ago. We did Hieroglyphic Canyon, and a group of us. And last year we went to do this, kind of start getting an annual kind of Dawn's hike of some sort. And last year was this hike, but just there was no participants, and Greg Davis had problems. But we were kind of looking at this year, and this will be kind of where we start open to the public this week. We'll do some little videos and post some stuff on Facebook and try to get a group out there. But it'll be 90 years come the following day, Sunday. Sunday will be exactly the 90 years since the Dons held the first trek. And we'll talk a bit about that first trek and kind of how much has changed. And we'll point out things on the hike. And it's not going to be anything too, strenuous or anything, It'll be stuff you can learn to some degree or another. There's a few things we know, but there should be a number of Dons out there. And then I'll be out there. Trevor will be, Greg Davis. Like I said, there'll be a number of other Dons. A few people had surgery and are not going to physically be able to do it. But I'm trying to get something kind of like that going. We'd like to work up to over the next few years and stuff, one to Fremont Saddle, and maybe even a cave trail hike. So then at the Rendezvous, we will be doing the Dawn's short hike that they did in 1935, which will be 89 years. So, but we will be doing that to some of the things of that hike there. So it'll be we'll kind of be going back through that, and this will be the 20th anniversary of the Rendezvous, as well as 90 years since the first trek and 89 years since they moved the trek to the original or the secondary site down at Peralta, which was Willow Canyon. And then later, the Dons changed that to Peralta Canyon and Geronimo's Cave, and all those things came up. And that'll be in October. So on October 26th, we'll do that on Saturday at the Rendezvous. But this one will be kind of interesting, so I'm not going to kind of talk a lot of the history because we'll do that during the time. And like I said, I got kind of the idea of what we'll do. Depends how many people, and if the Forestry Service makes us kind of put a gap between us, we can all catch up. So, but that'll be this Saturday, not this Saturday, the next Saturday on the 10th, and I figure we'll meet around 8, and then we'll probably get on the trail, make sure everybody's there, and then try to get on the trail by 9. Because of the parking lot's so small and fills up, there is the horse parking lot and overflow, and we're going to try to see if there's a couple Dons that are not going to do the hike, but can use a pickup truck to kind of bring people down from the other parking lot to kind of help out. And so we'll see how that happens. Happy Groundhog Day. I didn't even know that. We live in the same day over and over. Yeah, I didn't even know it was Groundhog Day. Don't pay attention to that. In fact, I was more concerned, I think it's September 15th or 19th, is Talk Like a Pirate Day, which is always a favorite day of mine. At work, I make all the employees talk like a pirate when they address me. It's fun. So I don't dress like a pirate, I just make everybody talk like pirates, which there are people who cannot carry accents or talk like pirates, and it's funny to watch them try to mimic and do so. So there you go. Anyhow, no idea it was Groundhog Day. All right. Arr, matey. Shiver me timbers. So we're going to... but typing shiver me timbers is not the same as saying shiver me timbers, matey. Walk the plank, you blimey. Alright, so anyways, so there's that. We're planning that on Saturday. So not this Saturday, but next Saturday. And like I said, we'll post stuff on Facebook and stuff and kind of get a nice group. The Dons should be wearing their red shirts and so forth. And it'll be interesting because there's a lot of little things and some history. Nothing too intensive, but it'll be more as a memorial for that hike. And something we can kind of like try to put back into the Dons. Kind of get things rolling again. Some different hikes and stuff. And you want to do easy stuff because you want people to be involved. You don't want to do something like, oh, let's go to Angel Springs. It's not going to work. I'm sure he growled at his keyboard. So there you go. So that is the big thing coming up this week. Of course, next Friday will be Discovery Camp. And I know there's other stuff coming up. The 15th of March will be the Treasure Hunt of the Year Awards, which I got to talk to Bob because he forgets what it is. And then I tell him, and then he forgets still. So I'll be talking to Shoes and getting that all done. Shout out to Larry Hedrick, who was in the hospital, had some surgery. Larry's doing very well. I talked to Larry the other night because I was concerned. I didn't see him when I thought I would see him, and I hadn't heard anything, and nobody had been in touch with him, and I talked to him and heard that he'd been in the hospital. He is recuperating and healing, has lots of doctor's appointments, but Larry's doing fine and kind of coming back around, but he is doing fine. We had a good conversation, so get well soon, Larry. Saw Jack San Felice and pretty much almost everybody else at Sharon Collenborn's funeral last Saturday. So it was myself and Frank and his wife Angie and me, Trevor, and Bob Shoes, his wife Luann, Jesse Feldman, Keith Furland, Bob Corbin. I'm trying to think of who else was there. There was a number of people there. Jesse. Who else was there? Ron was down in Tucson, Feldman, so he wasn't there. I'm trying to think who else was there. We all sat together, so that's when I knew was there. And then afterwards, chatted a bit. I went over and talked with Bob Corbin, and then I talked a little bit. Sat down with Jesse and Frank and Jack San Felice. And that was where I noticed Larry Hedrick wasn't. I knew he'd known Tom and Sharon for a very, very long time, so I called him up, said, hey, you missed a funeral, what happened? And he let me know he'd been in the hospital, and he was recovering afterwards, and that was the first day he was out, I think. And he didn't seem to be very aware of it, but I don't know. But it was unfortunate to hear that, but I was glad I did, and I'm going to try to keep it kind of a reminder to always check in and make sure and see how he's doing, since he's not hearing from much of anybody. So that was kind of the news. I guess there was some demo work down at the Bluebird. One of the houses, Louis' old houses, was bulldozed down. Someone had let me know. I contacted Shoes. Said, hey, you know anything about that? He said, no. I said, well, I was wondering if you were buying it. And he went, not yet. So, um, but yeah, so yeah, hopefully they keep the Bluebird building there. I don't know which building it was. She was concerned because one of the buildings was the original schoolhouse building, originally at Goldfield, um, from back in the day. So it would be really a shame for that building to be taken down or destroyed. So we're not sure. He was going to go over and check it out and talk to him and see what was going on. Haven't heard back from him, but yeah, I'm sure he'll get over there and check it out. And Shoes is doing well. Stressed, plenty of work to do, too much work, he said. But that's just the habit of it all. So we got all that. Video's doing well. Everything else is doing well. Like I said, it's been kind of rainy and wet, and that kind of knocked things out for the weekend. And this was the weekend other than Discovery Camp. I wanted to catch up on some other stuff because we got all these busy weekends going all the way to Treasure Hunt of the Year. And I wanted to kind of get a handle on things and catch things up because all too often when we do Chasing Legends is Trevor will put it off, put it off, put it off. And then what happens is he finally wants me to sit down, and it's Sunday, 9 o'clock p.m. And I've been sitting there with it kind of in the back of my head. And I'm like, damn. And then I got to sit. And that's why sometimes you look at him and you're like, man, you look kind of tired. Or you look like, are you feeling all right? Well, it's just because it's been the whole weekend. It's time, and I get up very early. And I'm like, I'm tired, man. Are we ever going to do this? And then he says, oh, yeah, yeah. So that's why that happens sometimes. Sometimes we do them, I look great. It's because, oh, it's Friday, Thursday or Friday or something, and he's, let's do it. Okay. Yeah, so there you go. There's that. So, oh, and then I got to look up for when History's Greatest Mysteries with Lawrence Fishburne, when the Dutchman episode runs. I know they've started season 5. I saw the first 3 episodes, which wasn't it. Watch the show anyways. It's a good show. It's very cool stuff, the way they look at things from different angles and different ways. And but there should be the Dutchman one that I worked on, and we'll do a Monday video. Might be 2, but there's a lot of content to it about kind of the whole staging, how that came about, and my trip and everything about it. We won't show what I did in the show, but everything up to there and afterwards, and all kind of what it's like, kind of ride along, tag along with me as you do when you go to do that kind of stuff. So that'll be cool. Late to the party. What's going on in mid-March? That's 15th is the Treasure Hunt of the Year Awards at Goldfield Ghost Town at the Mammoth. Should be 5 or 6 p.m. We'll have to wait till it is around that time to see when it is. I'm trying to think this year. I think it's on a Friday, so it should be hopping. And we should be the 32nd or 33rd annual Treasure Hunt of the Year. So it's getting down to the end of my time and Shoes' time with that event. We're supposed to do it for 12 years. Salvador did it for 12. Rick and Gwyn did it for 12. And Shoes and I have it for 12. And then we will be passing it on to someone else to take care of it. And then we don't announce ahead of time who's going to be inducted. Sometimes, I think we did one time because the person wasn't going to be able to, something to do, but usually we keep it kind of until that night. And okay, there we go. And Larry got added on Instagram, and he'll be hooking up with the Louisiana people. And then, so anyways, so there's that. So that's the Treasure Hunt of the Year Awards, and that was started by Salvador Degadillo, and it's Veni Vidi Vici. And there's this whole thing about Caesar and a lot of other stuff involved in it. I don't always fully understand, but we have a program there, and it's whoever we have room for. And there's not as many surviving members of that group as you would think, but that is a good time to catch myself, Bob Shoes, Ron Feldman, Jesse and Josh Feldman. Larry Hedrick comes out usually here and there. But Jack Sanfelice always comes. Frank shows up. A lot of different people. Brian Lickman does. Thomas Glover. Let's see who else. It's quite a number. It's everyone that's been inducted and and that kind of stuff. Is that amp with the Fender Covenant twin reverb or tweed? It's a tweed. Showing its feet makes me wonder what's under that dress. Under that dress is one of those hot rods. So that's the most recent. It's a tweed hot rod. It's got a 12. I think it's got a 12. I don't think it has a 16. It's a 12-inch tube amp, but it's a tube amp. So, that's the foot switch and stuff. That was one of my... I love tube amps. And that one there, it goes pretty much 0 to 100 fast on that volume, but it's a nice amp. It's warm. And but it came with the cover. It was a really good deal. So I got in a little trouble for that one. I just picked it up, and then I was going to say, hey, I picked up a new amp. It was a really sweet deal, and I had the cash, so I just bought it because it wasn't like I was going to put it on a card or anything. I had the cash on hand, and I decided I'll pick that up, and always could use a really good... It's good for stage. It's good for recording. I thought, yeah, I'd love to get a twin reverb, but the twin reverbs they were sitting around $2,000, the nice ones. And if I want a twin, I want one like I used to have. And so this was a nice amp. I really liked the tone. I really liked it. And if you really want to blast away, it is loud. And it has no crap on the top. It's volume, mid, treble, bass. It's very basic, and I like that. I like an amp that just has, if I want effects or any noise, anything that, I will add it in with pedals and stuff, which I think I talked about it last week, like my Bad Monkey. And I'll add into it with other things. Well, anyways, I figured, okay, I'll mention that I picked that up. And there was a lot going on. And then Trevor walks in late in the evening and just goes, did you buy a new amp? There's a new amp in there. And I felt like, oh, crap. I should have said something earlier. So, but that happens. Thank you. And thanks Trevor. He's like, yeah, I was moving stuff around. And I was like, oh, this amplifier is new. Yeah, my son doesn't understand tact and doesn't understand. He's not that supportive of Dad. Cool, thanks, nice. I'd keep it covered too. Thanks for sharing. Yeah, I kept the cover on it because I got the cover for it. And Trevor has a tendency to stick stuff on it, but yeah, I don't know. You can't really see a close-up of the Marshall and the Marshall tops and stuff, but the black gets so faded looking, the dust gets in the grooves, and they're so difficult to keep cleaned up and stuff. So I've always been like, I need to get a couple covers for the others, because I got down behind that in the bottom is another Marshall, then the Vox, the Line 6, and then the Marshall half stack, and then over here there's another Marshall. I think it's, which one's the bigger one? I think that one, no, one of these is a bigger Marshall. Anyways, they're like 12-inch speaker Marshalls. Anyways, I've been meaning to get covers for those because they get so dirty. And then the one by the window always gets dog slobber because the dogs sit in the window and then they slobber on the amp, which is kind of gross. But it's also a weathering technique. Anyway, there can never be... there's too many amps because you get to a point where you don't use stuff and there's like a Fender... I don't even see it. Oh, there it is. There's a Fender Champion over here. And no, I always have too many around. There's another Marshall in the garage with another amp. And no, I ended up with too many in here. Originally, the idea was to have amps in the house and then put amps in the other rooms. And then wherever I was, I could just plug into an amp. And then the problem was with dog beds and dogs, and I ran out of places. I had to start moving the amps back in here. So it kind of like I ended up with a warehouse in here. So one of the reasons for picking up the hot rod was there's a couple amps or so that I really don't have any use for and I'm going to get rid of. And I thought, okay, I want something I can use. I like the Fenders. I like the Marshalls. There's certain ones that I want to stick with what I like and what I want. And because if I had my druthers, there would be only the half stack. I would have a Fender Twin Reverb, a Vox AC30, and then probably, that might be it. I might just be able to go with that. And the reason is they can do anything I want. And there was a Music Man 212 I had that I really liked. I don't think you could find those anymore. I don't remember who makes those. Somebody else makes them anymore. They're not the same. I played one because I was like, whoever took over Music Man, and I was like not as thrilled. Here we got me talking about amps and stuff. Any update on Sunsets? Yeah, everything's almost finished. So a bunch of music was put in. That was something I meant to work on with Trevor, because once we're good on whatever mix and he feels he's got what he needs there, then the next thing is I want to go through the whole thing. There's some stuff I want for like interludes, say you go to a B-roll picture and stuff. There's things I want to substitute that I'd like better, that I'm not real happy with. I think everything works real good, but it's stuff like, it's someone, let's say Ron Feldman's talking, and then as he's talking, there's a shot of the mountains, and then it's back to Ron, and a few of those shots throughout the film I'm not really big on. I told Trevor I think I have photographs and other things that would work so much better, and let's try that, an alternative version of kind of what I'd like to pick in that. And so I think it's that close. So hopefully in the next month or so, that's all finished up. So that'll take time, and that'll take an argument, because he really wants to do it the way it is. But I think that's Center's Gold. Well, Center's Gold necessarily isn't on Flatiron. That's just the way a lot of people go up there. So up to the Flatiron. So that's one of the areas beyond there. It's probably the easiest way to get up there. There's another way on the backside from the east, and there's other ways to get up there and go into that area. I'd always say reference Bob Corbett. Well, I'm getting ready to say so many different names. Helen Corbett's book, Center's Gold, and the maps in it. That'll give you some ideas, and you can go through that. I believe there's some other stories Tom told on it, and he'll give you some, if you go to the Columborn Chronicles. Looking forward to Sunsets for sure. Yeah, and that's going to be kind of nice once that's all finished, because he has everything arranged for the packaging and everything else. And it's just been, the delay was the music, not getting the music quite right. It would be sitting there. The rendezvous is October 25th, 26th, and 27th, because this is the 20th annual, and Jacob Waltz died on the 25th of October. So, and that's kind of, we used to center it around October 25th. This year, the problem was going to be between Halloween and it's Veterans Day. It was going to be really difficult to pick which one to do, and because holidays, you're going to lose out on the people and stuff, and Halloween, you don't want to interfere with the families. We're not having Halloween in the Superstition, even though that sounds awesome. But the idea was, well, we'll move it back to that date for the 20th anniversary. And that's where we'll be. And hopefully it'll be nice out. One of the reasons we moved it into November was it was always kind of warm during the day and all. But we'll figure it out. We're tough. Okay. So, yes, Sunsets will be nice. And I'm sorry, work. And did I hear the rendezvous end of October? That was first weekend in November. It was only in November for 2 years out of 20. So most of the time it was in October. So it was around the 25th. And it kind of was sitting there. And what happened was, we can't do it later in November because of Thanksgiving. And we were trying to stay away from the holidays. And there was all this discussion. And then I finally moved it into November to see if we could catch it right after Halloween, if it was cooler. And it was kind of gets difficult playing in those dates, so there's a period where we probably won't do it there. And the 20th, it just made sense because of Waltz's anniversary of his death to do it on the 25th. So we're back to where we were, but we will have still the Saturday nights, and everything else will be kind of the same. And there'll be more as soon as we get through the Treasure Hunt of the Year awards and this upcoming next Saturday hike with the Dons. Then we will start kind of going into more of that stuff in the future of dealing with what we're doing coming the rendezvous. So there's a lot planned, we're going to kind of center on and stuff, and we'll see how it works. I mean, we have a nice program. We kind of got it worked out. It'll make it pretty busy for me, but hopefully it'll be kind of pretty nice. And for one time, I'll be willing to draw a bigger crowd, and we'll see what happens. Well, we haven't really promoted it other than talking on these lives and stuff. We don't do much. We quit putting posters up around town and advertising it. We still get a good crowd. But we'll see for the 20th anniversary if we can really kind of blow it out, have a good time. There's that. What else do we have? So we got all that. 434. We get in there too close and it echoes. Another thing we're trying to do in here, and you might see it here, a noticeable sound difference when we do it. You'll see it a little in the background, is we're going to get some padding in here to suck up some of the noise. I could by picking up, especially the resonator and the acoustic guitar in front of me, bringing those down and getting those off, because I can always hear them in front of me. The problem is there's a lot of guitar cases, and I don't like to pack away the guitars that I'm using, so therefore, because I hate dragging out the cases, and you can see behind me, well, there's equally on this wall up in front of me over here to my left, there's another stack of cases with guitars in them, so they're just piled everywhere. So it's problematic if I do have to keep them out so I can use them and I don't have to be moving things constantly, because the problem becomes you got to do so much work, you're like, just look at it and you're like, nah. So, which is why to some degree one of the guitars in front of me gets used a lot, because it's one of the easier to access, even though the one that gets used the most is over in the corner over there, the Aria, because it's one of the easiest to grab onto. And that's generally how it is. Whatever is easiest. And that's, hey. Let's see. What would be your top 2-day hikes? Top 2-day hikes. Is it mean 2-day hikes or top 2-day hikes? I'm not sure of that. Two pretty fit, well, you never know what two pretty fit people are. So is that a top 2-day hike, or you said it plural, so is it day hikes, top day hikes? I'll get to that in a second. Where Rogers Canyon's trail, someone else's meets Rogers Canyon. Okay, there's a lot of places red dirt in the mountains. If you get way back in there along Fish Creek, there's a lot. Gilgold prospecting, bugging out. Horses gotta eat. Truckers invasion for the border is working great. Have a great weekend. You too. Hope those guys are safe and everything out down there. Nobody knows the border like people who live on the border, and people who live near the border have a whole different perspective than the rest of the world on the border. That is a real true thing. Let's see. What are your thoughts on the board house west of the quarter circle U? No, it was the quarter circle U. The board house was right there. I think they did a forensic thing on the ground there and were able to pick it out. Just 1-day hike, 2 of them. Okay, 2-day hikes. We talked about the Garden Valley. We got to get to this other thing. But on the 10th, we talked about it very in depth at the beginning. You'll have to go back because that took a while. But we will be meeting probably about 8 a.m. and then we'll probably get going between 8:30 and 9. We'll see when people show up. I'll try to get there and it takes a long time to get out there. You want people, we're going to try to see if we get someone to shuttle people down from the upper lot, and we'll be hitting the normal stuff that we've talked about. So once we're done, if you catch it earlier, I did talk about it in the first 10 minutes. A day hike, a really good day hike, in and out, 2 fit people. I would say go in on Peralta, go up Peralta, go to the Ely Anderson, up the Ely Anderson, up onto the south end of Bluff Springs. That's a really good hike. Pretty much to get up there, tool around. There's a couple different ways down, but even if you come back that way by Miner's Needle, or you can go out down through Needle Canyon and back up and over Cardiac. You can go in through Cardiac and then back down and out through Miner's Needle. That's a great loop hike. That will wear you out. It's a lot of fun. It's a really cool hike. I would suggest going in by Miner's Needle, up Ely Anderson, and then back down, and then go the other. Depend which way. If your legs are done, if you're shot, you can go Miner's Needle, which is longer walk, but takes about the same amount of time. The cardiac version is shorter, but it's, you're going all uphill going back out. It's not as steep as coming in. The only steep hiking of that is cardiac when you first start out. Another one I'd always recommend was Blacktop Mesa. Come in through First Water, go down to Brush Corral, and then go up Blacktop. And the views there of Palomino, Weaver's Needle, Bluff Springs Mountain, everything there. I'd say Charlie Boy, but that's just a long walk. And by the time you make it to Charlie Boy, it's going to be, you need to be in really good shape and then have lots of daylight. So I would say early spring, where you got more daylight coming back out, because you want to be able to kind of, if you're not familiar with the trails, see the trails. That's how people get lost, I think, sometimes, is they're out there and it's kind of darker, the sun's going down and they don't see the trails. And sometimes there's off trails that come off the trails that people have used to go do whatever, set up campsites, and people get on the wrong thing and boom. What can you share about the Hewitt Ranch? Things like who started the ranch. We'll do a Chasing Legends on that sometime. Who is the present owner? So I think the Martins have all that stuff. The Martin family, they're still down in there, ranching up through there. Be nice to them. Don't bug them if you go out on any of the old ranch houses or any of the property and you see them out there. Just be nice. I like people that drop people's names to people, and it's kind of funny. Like they knew people or something and this and that. Anyways, unless you're introduced to someone, then don't bring up someone else's name. No problem. Those are good hikes. I always like Second Water all the way around to, and you'd have to specifically know Chuck Ayler's house. That's a nice, easy one through Garden Valley, down through Second Water. There's lots to explore, along with Obie Stoker's Old Question Mark Mines, and then you go around the bend. There's the Red Paint Mine and John Chuning's digs, and then you get around the corner to Chuck Ayler's old house in Boulder Canyon. That's a good hike and kind of fun one. It's not too tough. The Hackberry Loop is a nice day hike. You can actually take that through Garden Valley, up around, and go to Hackberry Springs. You'll have to turn off and go right around to that, and then come back down First Water Creek. And if you do it the right way and know where to cut over, you can go by the second First Water Ranch on the way back. You seem to like Fish Creek. Why? Fish Creek's a great split. It has Lost Dutch Canyon in it. Fish Creek's a really cool place. We've found a lot of stuff through there. It's very interesting. There's a lot of caves in there. There's a lot of red dirt. There's a lot of mining claims. And it's ignored by the general populace. So you can spend a lot of time in Fish Creek. It doesn't have the easiest access. Now that Fish Creek Hill's gone and Tortilla Road is very difficult to get into Tortilla Ranch for most people. So to get in there and connect to Lost Dutch Canyon, so you can go spend a couple days back in there and not run into anybody. I've always liked it. I like the isolation spots and the fact that you're hitting ground that a lot of people haven't been over 1,000 times. There's the fun part about the familiar areas that everybody was in, but the only two people I knew extensively that were in Fish Creek for a period of time, which will also explain my interest, was Herman and Reinhard Petrasch did file claims in Fish Creek down in there. And I always was looking to see if I could find where they filed their claims, if I could find a claim marker or any paperwork, even though it would be illegible, if I could find anything from that. And I never did, but it's very interesting. It's a very rugged area, but it's beautiful. And there's a lot of wildlife through there, bighorn sheep and the Quadamundé and coyotes and mountain lions. It's just a very rugged, really nice area. And because you don't hear about so many people back in there, it really interests me because it kind of leaves things wide open. I don't know of anybody else. I know Jesse and Josh Feldman once hiked from Lost Dutch Canyon, I think, down to Fish Creek Hill that way out, and it was a pretty rough for them. I don't hear about a lot of many people that go back in there and spend a lot of time. I know Thomas Glover might have. I know Jack Carlson does, and a couple other people that hike with him. So I know he spends the time, and then we've talked about it. And then there's someone who works with the Superstition Search and Rescue, and we talked a lot about it. But it's not normally an area that a lot of people. I mean, we're talking Fish Creek from the Salt River all the way to the southern end of the Superstitions. It splits the entire mountains. So hello, Jax. Hey, Jax, come here. Hey, buddy. Come to visit after all that? Must have been having a good time. So that's one of the reasons I like Fish Creek. It's just a beautiful area. There's really neat stuff back in there, and there's ruins along there. But there's a lot there that's just not in the normal scheme of things. And because you're not running into a lot of people, it's always interesting and fun. It's not a spot I'm going to be able to take Frank and Woody and stuff because of how rugged it is. But it's a really nice area. It's one of those areas I really enjoy being in. If I wanted to get away for 3 or 4 days back in the mountains, going back into Tortilla, down into Fish Creek, back in there, there's a lot of cool spots, and it's really nice. Have you ever found any nice pieces, keepers in the mountains, or pieces? Yeah, I did. We showed one of them on that treasures one or whatever. I don't have them in here. I put them everything away. No, I found some really nice pieces of ore. I'm not as obsessive as Greg Davis about picking up ore and keeping track of it, but I always do keep rocks or things from specific places, so in specific mines and stuff. So I will collect them and then kind of like make sure I keep track of them. So I have Silver Chief, I have Silver King ore, I have stuff from the Palmer mine. I got stuff from John Pierce's mine. I got stuff from the LDM of Linsby. I just different mines. I have pieces of ore from different ones. None of them probably have much speak of gold in them, if any, but I keep pieces so I can always look at the different types of conglomerate and ore, where they came from. And there's the pieces I found on Bluff Springs and a few other areas that are really cool. Right now, recently I had got some wasp ore, so I have some really nice pieces of wasp ore. And Shoes told me to go home and smash it up and see what kind of gold I get out of it, because he was interested. And I don't want to, because I got 4 pieces and I just want to keep them. So I have them actually. They're somewhere in the garage, but I put them in a box and label, and then have them sit there, and then I'll get them out and look at them. But yeah, I like having those pieces. I have some nice pieces. I have a really nice piece somewhere of Silver King ore. It has a nice bit of silver running through the granite, but it has flecks of copper and gold through it. And it's not worth a lot. It's just really pretty looking rock. And I remember Frank and I found that rock up above the Silver King, one of these prospects where they'd been digging and they hit something, and I was looking through them and nothing, nothing. And then I found this really nice piece that shines well. Should probably put some of them up on the shelves in here and stuff, bring them in and clean them up. But it's just, I do collect pieces everywhere. So there we go. I think I answered that. Any lore to the Milk Ranch Creek? I don't think so. There is a kind of a weird difference. A lot of the lore in the Eastern Superstitions has to do with the ranching, and it's kind of, I kind of like always look at it as when you get to the certain ranches and the further east you get, it's like Jack Carlson's Hiking Guides, Eastern Superstitions is a really good book for that. I'm buying me a shirt and a coffee mug. Well, thank you. You should buy a hat too. Then you should get the trifecta. What do you think of original appearance of the profile map? Was it from Erwin Ruth, or when was it first published? The first variation was somewhere in some Storm stuff. The first appearance? Yeah, I'm thinking it would have been one of Storm's books. Is the first time it makes appearance. It's really confusing, because if you read a bunch of books, you'll find it pops up here and there when it shouldn't. Before McGill, the first time all those 3 maps are put together saying they came from Irwin is in Killer Mountains, which would be mid-60s. So, and that would have been from the early 60s. But I'm pretty sure there's something of Storms that I remember. It's kind of one of them. You also have to remember the profile map that Adolph Ruth and that you see in that is different than the ones I've seen, the originals, which are more sketches, and they're a lot different. And there's a lot of there that's kind of difficult to pull together. Like, does this really make sense? That all these various pieces. I don't know if Erwin Ruth in the letter to one of the detectives says when asks about it, he tells the detective he couldn't tell you which map was which. He says he didn't pay attention to them. He got them. He didn't go over them much with his father. He just kind of knew generally he thought what they might look like, but he was not that familiar with them. And he said, I think at the time, he says he probably couldn't tell them. He wasn't sure if there was 2 or 3 or 1. He had no clue. And this isn't a letter to a police detective who really the guy was at the time trying to get trying to remember which one of them. One of the guys that he'd been packed in with in trouble. And, he'd been talking some big talk, and they were trying to get him, and they I guess he'd been shopping a map, and they were thinking, well, if it's Ruth's map, then we can bring him in on the murder charge, which there was no murder charge. And it was kind of all like bullshit, but Erwin, in the letter to the detective, tells him basically, seems to have zero interest really in it, and basically tells him, I wouldn't be able to tell you what the map, I couldn't draw you a picture of it. Got no clue. And that's very, very telling. So I always believe that it would be interesting to know what Erwin really had and which map really goes with stuff. I think the one that Frank Fish got from the Peralta family after he was looking for the Gonzales maps, when he decided to see if there was Peraltas, might have a copy of the Adolph Ruth map. When he went to do that, it ended up with the map he had. I think that might have been one of the maps. But you don't have Erwin Ruth or anybody to compare to, and Erwin was like, So that's one of the problems about those maps. It's not, if you believe that story completely verbatim that Erwin told, he told different versions of that story. And like I said, when you find letters and stuff where he's like, I really don't know which one's which, I think just with Glenn McGill at that time, he just kind of decided, I'm pretty sure these are the right ones, and that's what he did. And that's what we ended up with. And of course, Kurt Gentry kind of wrote a book around it, so we don't know if that was exactly the whole thing of how the maps ended up with McGill, and that was the conversations. Since you brought up Weaver's Needle, I didn't know I brought Weaver's Needle up at all. What is some of the details about the guy who was shot? We actually have Clay Worst talking about that, because Clay was there when the guy was shot at, and Clay went up in the helicopter to help rescue or deal with the guy that was still stuck up on there, and they shot at the helicopter. We'll have to find that. I have it actually recorded. I have a video of Clay telling that story, like, had to be 10, 15 years ago, and we were sitting there, and he was talking to me about it, and he talked about the whole story, how they were doing something, they heard yelling, and they finally went over and they found what happened. So I got that somewhere, and I don't think Trevor ever posted that, but yeah, I have Clay telling in his own words. And if I have that, I'd rather post that than me tell the story. Let Clay tell it himself of what happened in real time. Same rock. I don't know. No, it ain't same rock. Same rock. Miner's Needle casts a big sombrero hat shadow. Okay, I don't. Where would it cast the sombrero hat shadow, and how would you? I don't know. The contour of the ground wouldn't really show it, and if you're using Google Earth and that kind of stuff, it really lies. So I don't know what you're saying there. And I don't know what same rock is. Same rock. I don't know. I want a rock. Okay. So no Twisted Sister there briefly for a second. But that being said and done, and we're nearing our time here. A lot of good questions, a lot of stuff we hit and touch base on. No, but he said Miner's Needle, not Weaver's Needle. Yeah, since you brought up Weaver's Needle, yeah, I think we talked about Miner's Needle, and then we ended up with that. So we'll have to do something on the maps of Adolph Ruth, and that'll be a good one. But I'll have to pull everything together. We did one on maps, and we always try to do something different. And Adolph Ruth is about 10 different episodes of different things. So I know we did the recovery of the body and some of that stuff. That Food Friday. Where's the crystal skulls? I don't know. You know what the problem with the crystal skulls is? The guy that said he knew where they were and told Tom, went to one place with Tom, and then he ended up with the mafia or something, cartel guys at a different place. Then they tried to take us to a third place. So the Crystal Skull seems to be moving about the mountains. I was really interested because when I was told that story, I was thinking, okay, you can kind of see it. And he was very, very convincing. And I thought, okay, and then Randy and I picked up a bunch of smoke bombs. And I said, okay, what we're going to do is we'll be able to film. We had a very narrow thing, and we were going to film and get a light on it and kind of be able to take pictures and film. And then what we were going to do is pop in these big smoke balls. And what we were going to do is smoke that thing, and we we're going to plug that hole with towels. And the idea was to see if there was anywhere else in the ground that would seep. But that was the idea. We had a really good plan for it, and then we were going to spread out and look for if we could see any seepage where the smoke was coming out. If we didn't see anything after a while, then we would open that up again and see if it didn't come out that way. We knew it was being sucked airwise somewhere else. It was going to be, but we had plans, and yeah, we were really into it. And then the guy just kind of, I have to find the guy. The guy was talking to us, and he was going to show us a map. He said he didn't know if he could make it, and he told me exact, but he was going to give me a topo map with everything laid out on it and stuff, and then it all just never heard from him again. And I never could find the message or email from him again. And I'm sure I would have printed it, but I've never run across it again. And then I got a hold of Tom Collenborn, and Tom and I talked about it and compared it, and he thought it was one of the original guys. And he said he did not know why they were taking us to this whole different spot and all that. And God, this has been 10 or 11 years ago that story came up. So maybe longer, 12 or 13. I don't know. It was back in the days of the Randy. So it's probably been 14 or 15. And then I was really interested in reconnecting with him for the TV show because I thought, oh, that would be a cool one to do something about that. And because they liked that spooky UFO BS type stuff. So I thought, well, that'd be cool, the Crystal Skull thing. And then I could not find the email, and then I knew where the area was, and then they got really cold feet about going out there. I said, give me 2-3 cameramen, an audio guy, let me and DeLeo Magnuson head out there, and we'll just go out and back in a day, and you guys will have plenty of footage. I mean, nobody will know any different, and then they get weird. Because they're control freaks, remember that too. They want to be there to tell you what to do, where to go, how to breathe, and where to poop. And letting us just go in the mountains and film would mean we would outnumber everybody else, and that's not what you want. Sycamore Creek area, did you guys go out there four-wheel drive back in the... Yes, we did. I remember Wes. Sycamore Creek, and yeah, we used to drive up and down that creek. One of those really odd stories is at one time we used to go down in there and drive up and down, and then we would shoot off fireworks at each other like not bottle rockets, Roman candles. But we used to do a cookout there on the one side of the creek. We'd dig a big pit, the barbecue pit, and fuel it up, and then we'd do the burlap wrap barbecue and then smoke it and cook the barbecue in the ground. That was a spring cookout every year down at Sycamore Creek. And I remember digging the pit and the rocks and everything and burying it and having the barbecue the next day. But I remember that. Yeah, that was many years ago. I was a really youngin' when that was happening. And yeah, I don't think I've been down in there much. I've stopped by there when I had to go up into Payson and stuff, if we're talking to the same Sycamore Creek. But I've stopped in that area and went down there and visited the spot. I remember, another thing I remember about it is that was back in the day, you cross the river and stuff, the creek, and then it would be swollen, but then the guys would go out there with their trucks and stuff and mess around, and we used to watch the Toyotas and the Datsuns, because there's no Nissans, but Toyotas and Datsuns snap their U-joints, man, like twigs out there and have to get hauled out by the Blazers and Broncos and stuff. So speaking of the Quarter Circle Ranch, Quarter Circle U, didn't the Barkley family build that board house around 1907? That one was built by the Barkleys after the other one possibly burned down. The Barkleys purchased the ranch, and this is where it gets. Chuck Backus is a good source for it because Chuck disagreed with us, and then later he said something happened at one point. Gertrude Barkley talked in an interview about bringing out and putting windows and stuff in. They lived in the stone house out by the corrals. They lived in that stone building at first till they could rehabilitate the other building because it was in such bad shape and it needed windows and stuff like that. It was more just a shed. And they did a forensic checking of the ground around it because there was a problem with some photographs of it, and we went up on the south side of the ranch and took photographs, and we were trying to do overlays, and the ranch seemed to be off kilter to other pictures of the ranch. And I think the date you have is different and wrong, because I think the problem we were having was the ranch in a photograph around 1930 didn't seem to be in the same place as it was in present day, and we were very curious about that. 1907, 1909 is when Gus Barkley bought the ranch. He bought the interest of, I don't know if he bought Bark's interest. He bought part of the interest in the ranch, and then later they bought everybody out. I can't remember Bark's partner's name. I'm getting old, but I'll remember it after we're done. But yeah, needed a drink. But yeah, there was a number of different owners, but I think there was nobody living there during the Marlar period. So, and then Bark bought it, but I don't know if he really lived out there or how he utilized it. And then I found a couple documents that put the Bark Ranch in different places, so I don't know how that was exactly. You got to remember, when I was a kid, and anybody had been around back in those days, a long time ago, there was a lot of different shacks out there. Bob Ward lived at 2 or 3 different places before he lived at the Cook cabin. So before that happened, Bob lived in some of these other shacks. There used to be shacks. There was a campground on the east side of the road going into Peralta. And things were a lot different out there when I was a kid. And I could kind of tell you where the campground, but there was a campground area where people pulled and camped and stuff, and overflow parking. It was very different. The Don's camp was the same, but a lot of stuff was different. And the Lost Dutchman store actually was a functional store at that time. Everybody would go down, and sometimes they had ice, sometimes they didn't. But yeah, things were very different. For those people interested in going back in that direction too, the Quarter Circle U, the family there will be moving the gates, and they will be limiting even more access going in there. That is because of the people camping, starting fires, the homeless people, and people just messing around. That is an active working cattle ranch. If people were more respectful and not just being a bunch of idiots, we would still have more access. I fully support them, the fact that they have, you're talking about people in there and they have a family and whatever else goes in there, and they got an operating business, and people have to be idiots. And we've had so much access, and there was a time with Howard Hornick, everybody was given access through there. Howard was very cool, and it was such a nice thing. But we are in times now where people, if you go down Peralta Road, all the people camp on the sides, everybody just decides they're going to go where they want, and they have some sort of right of way, and they've done that, and so they're going to move up the boundary, and they will be gating it off, and you won't be able to get in there, and that be that. I'm not going to even give you the names and say the names of the people that operate back in there, because you don't need their names. They have every right to do what they're doing. So I feel really bad because that's come to that, but that's just a sign of the times. And when we drive down Peralta Road, all the people on the sides of the road just making big old dust bowls and stuff. It's just so messed up. Okay, so speaking of the course, okay, we did that. Oh, okay, so what's the so-called board house just west of the old store you spoke of? Kind of near the old OK Corral movie set. Well, that was just the movie set. There was no board house. There's building. Like I said, there's buildings everywhere. You had the Lost Dutchman store, which was taken down years ago. The movie set stuff was down many, many years ago. So, the Quarter Circle U ranch house is still there. The stone house is still there. Then you have in between them the tack room. and then you have a newer house that was built. Howard's trailer was pulled out of there, and then there was a house further down from those as well that nobody's quite sure know where the site was. That I'd have to do a kind of a map and show kind of like different things about that. And definitely the person to talk about that would be Chuck Backus. Chuck knew the history very well. He's putting out a book, I think. He had a pamphlet type thing he put out, and now he's putting out a more proper book on it, and that should be a good resource. And I'd always say if someone's got a book on it and he deals specifically with that, deal with that. I don't know if the one's available, and I'll have to look. But I know Chuck loves to talk about that stuff. I'd love to sit him down and talk about it. But I'll have to see if he's selling a book and talk to the other family members. So I'll talk to Chuck or Judy. I end up usually talking to Judy. But I'll talk to them and find out if he's doing that book and going to release that book and do that. Try to see if we can do something to to help promote his book and get it out there, because it's very, very, very interesting, the history and stuff around that. And he always has been in love. His family's in love with that place, hence them moving the gates. So that is why that is, and I'm fully supportive of it. Putting in the Peralta Regional Park is going to be the ruin of a lot of things. They're going to pave the road all the way to Peralta Trailhead, and when they do that, the vandalism. The concern with the Dons is the Dons base camp days could be numbered. The ranches are going to have more and more problems, unfortunately, and what we're going to introduce is all kinds of stuff. So we have a big park that they spent tens of millions of dollars on that really nobody's at, but they have rangers acting like they work Homeland Security at Area 51, watching everybody around the area, and they're going to limit things more and more, and it's really kind of sad because it's screwing everything up. And I was like, why don't you just out there by the Apache Kid Cave Trail, which they call the Wave Cave, but why don't you just make that parking lot bigger and then create a camp area over this way like we used to have, something basic, instead of all the stuff that they're doing. But they built this regional park, and everybody's still parking on the side of the road and just camping. And then, of course, they're going on the ranch properties and causing problems. I don't know if it'll create death, but it's going to create a lot more traffic through there. There's still people aren't going to move very fast. I have a feeling they'll put speed bumps or something in. I don't know. The road to the park is coming this summer, and then 2025 the road should extend to Peralta Trailhead, and they'll be doing that over the summers. So that being that, and we're almost done, and we're going to wrap up because it's pizza night. So got pizza coming tonight. I don't smell it, but I know it's supposed to come. So that's the updates and everything. Next week we'll have a lot to talk about for the hike on Saturday. So we'll be doing that. Do you feel the interest in the loam is peaked or getting worse? I don't know, peaked or getting worse. The peak of it was many, many, many years ago. It was the 40s, 50s, 60s, 70s. I think even a little bit in the 80s. That was a peak of it. But then when our show came out, the amount of money and tourism that flooded into Apache Junction for 2 or 3 years after that was huge. You could measure how much of a difference that TV show meant. It paid for a lot of things. Shoes told me right up, because everybody was being critical of us and like, hey, sellouts. And then it was really funny because Shoes told me, no, the numbers are here. And then I talked to someone at the museum and they told me the numbers, and I was like, holy crap. So it just takes things to happen. You got to understand, when people put out books, there's a difference between something of local interest and you just see it on Amazon and it sells 200 copies, and something that really catches people's attention. So we'll see what happens and what the interest is after here shortly. Of course, we're going to have History's Greatest Mysteries and an episode dealing with that, and then we'll see if there's any follow-ups anywhere from that. But I will say there is an impact when it's out there in the general public. The interest moves up, and it will always peak and it will come down depending on the material and the books and everything that's there. So there you go. I'm going to have pizza. Thank you, everybody. Thank you for opening the show. Thank you guys for being around at the close of the show. Um, and it'll be good to see you, David, you and Lacey, seeing you guys out there on the 15th. That'll be very cool. So I haven't named my alligator, but I'm thinking about naming the alligator head Dave, because I think that'd just be cool. It could be DK, but I think Dave's cool because, you got an alligator head, it has to have a name. Thanks again for the answers. There's always a favorite of mine on Fridays. Enjoy your pizza. Thank you. I kind of, you know what? I hated doing the lives after a while because you do them for so long, and it's so kind of like, oh. But I found a way to kind of get them in. It's less stressful now. I don't feel like I'm up against the gun on these and stuff. And so I'm kind of in a place where I kind of enjoy them and I kind of have fun. It's a much looser kind of thing. There's a lot more Dutch hunting involved in the talks too. It's a kind of gotten away from got away from the TV show more and more in the general curriculum of the Dutchman, and I enjoy that. Having not to answer any questions today about the television show or the films and that stuff is kind of cool when it's just about the books and the history and stuff. I'd much rather do that. And I will do the other. It's not that it's, but you know what I'm saying. So there you go. Give the doggy some pizza. All the dogs get some pizza. I'm bad at that. All the dogs get food from my plate. I'm a bad dude like that. All right. So have a good night, Clint. Hope you're all okay. I'm reading other people's crap there. Okay. So anyways, thank you everybody for joining us. I'm going to get out of here with my Coyotes jersey, the captain of the live programming. Jax, come here. Say bye to everybody. Say bye. Say goodbye, okay? Tell everybody bye-bye. We're going to go have some pizza, okay, buddy? So for me and Jax, thank you for joining us. And for another episode of Live Legends, and I got to find the button. There is no way to close this. We need a closing thing where it makes some music and something that fades out. Because this whole search and starting to talk and then desperately looking for the right buttons. So I think it's going to stop streaming when I push this. Let's see if Trevor's right. Thanks, everybody, and catch you.